The annual Carter family celebration at the Cliffstone Grand in Santa Barbara was in full swing. My sister Lillian was doing what she always did, directing everything like she was royalty. She floated around in her champagne-colored gown, adjusting seating cards and guests with her usual flair. "Ethan, sweetheart," she beamed at her eldest brother, "you'll be next to Mom. She wants to hear all about your firm's IPO." Then she turned, dramatically tossing her hair. "And Camille, of course, by Dad. I mean, Goldman Sachs doesn't just hand out senior partner titles, right?" I watched from a quiet corner near the waitstaff prep area, unsurprised. It was the same every year. Eventually, she spotted me. Lillian squinted, as if surprised I'd even shown up. Her expression faltered for just a second before snapping back into her performative smile. "Oh, Natalie," she said lightly, like my name was a forgotten line in a play. "We're a little short on space near the main tables. Could you just—" She waved vaguely toward the server station. "Settle in over there? With your— what is it again? You work in boutique retail, yes?" I smiled politely. "Something like that." They all believed I worked in luxury product sourcing, which explained the travel and absence. What they didn't know was that I was the founder and CEO of Carter Lux Group, a $12 billion zero-cents global hospitality empire that owned every Cliffstone property, including this one. I took a seat near the kitchen, still in my custom midnight black gown, a one-of-a-kind piece designed by Maison Delvine, a fashion house I quietly acquired last year. Lillian, of course, was too absorbed in her curated social theater to notice. As I sat, Marcel, the manager of this Cliffstone location, hurried over, clearly rattled. "Miss Carter," he said in a hushed tone, "your private dining suite is prepared. We didn't know you'd be joining the party this year." I shook my head gently. "Tonight? I'm just Natalie. Please keep it that way. No need for fanfare." He nodded, though his eyes betrayed his nerves. Lillian's voice rang out across the ballroom, recounting her lavish charity gala. Hosted, ironically, at one of my hotels. She never knew. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah, my CFO. "Rivera Hotels acquisition complete. You now own every major luxury property in 3 more cities." I glanced toward the main table. They seated me with the staff. But the staff knew who I was. "Board meeting tomorrow to finalize expansion strategy." I smiled to myself, picturing Lillian's frequent gushing about her incredible stays at Rivera Properties. She never knew her favorite concierge in Milan reported to me. Wait until she discovered that everyone she name-dropped at those hotels answered to her supposedly irrelevant little sister. "Natalie," my mother's voice floated across the restaurant. "At least come say hello to everyone. We hardly see you these days, what with your little business always keeping you jetting around." My little business had just closed a $3,200,000,000 zero-cents acquisition deal, but I stood and approached the family table like the dutiful daughter they thought I still was. James didn't look up from his phone, probably tracking stock tickers, including, ironically, Carter Lux Group's soaring share value. "Still doing that product thing?" he asked, tone dripping with disinterest. "If you're looking for something more stable, I could get you in with our logistics team. Entry level, of course." I almost laughed. His investment bank had recently pitched financing options for the Rivera acquisition. I'd rejected their offer. Too rigid, too arrogant. Much like James himself. At that moment, Philippe Bernard, the restaurant's general director, entered the room. He froze mid-stride when he saw me. "Madame Carter?" he blurted, then corrected himself, flustered. "Mademoiselle, Victoria's head whipped around. "You know Natalie?" Philippe's eyes bounced from me to my family like a deer trapped in headlights. I could have bailed him out, but a quiet part of me decided, no. Let them wonder. "Yes, of course," he stammered. "Miss Carter, she often coordinates premium orders for our top clientele." Victoria smirked, already writing her version of the truth. "Right. Natalie helps source luxury items for hotels. Isn't that right?" Before I could answer, the main entrance opened again. In walked Marcus Chin, my COO, and clearly unaware of my preference for anonymity at these family events. He moved quickly, tablet in hand, crisp navy suit immaculate. Boss, sorry to crash dinner, but I need your signature on the Rivera merger docs before the Asian markets open. He stopped as he took in the table. Confused family, stunned Philippe, and me, calmly sipping my wine. Boss? James echoed, fork suspended mid-air. My mother blinked twice. Her high society instincts were flaring. Something didn't compute. I exhaled. The wall between who they thought I was and who I really am had just cracked wide open. Thank you, Marcus, I said, signing without hesitation. All 37 properties? 38, he replied smoothly. We secured the Singapore location this morning. Once you sign, Marcus said calmly, Carter Lux Group will officially become the largest luxury hospitality group in Asia. So, Lillian's wine glass slipped from her perfectly manicured fingers. Red spilled across the crisp white linen like a dropped secret, soaking into silence. No one moved. The servers remained still, watching not a guest, but their employer being unmasked before her own family. Carter Lux? My father finally spoke, his voice sharpened with business alertness. That's the firm that just acquired Rivera Hotels for over $3 billion, 0 cents. That Carter Lux? The same, I replied, signing with one practice motion. Though that's just the latest acquisition. You might be familiar with the Lumaview Resorts, the Wellington Collection, or the Grandstone properties. James's eyes twitched. Wait, he muttered, brow furrowing. Yes, James, I added casually. Your bank tried to pitch us funding terms for the Rivera deal. I declined. His jaw slackened, then realization dawned, and with it, embarrassment. That was your company? He asked. It still is, I said, handing Marcus the signed tablet. Philippe, I believe I was seated incorrectly this evening. Philippe nearly bowed. 1,000 apologies, Madame Carter. Your usual table, of course, we've already cleared it. He gestured toward the restaurant's most exclusive corner, the space usually reserved for board dinners, diplomatic visits, and private client meetings. Victoria's voice suddenly cracked through the stunned quiet, a pitch higher than before. You're a personal shopper. You drive a Honda. I own the building where I shop, I corrected calmly, along with most of that block. The Honda is for errands. The town car is parked outside if it'll help you sleep. Mother blinked rapidly, her internal social ledger working overtime, recalculating alliances and status cues she thought were immutable. All those times you missed our events, she began. I was usually in Dubai, Paris, or Tokyo, I answered, expanding operations, though I did make time for James's promotion dinner last spring. After all, I owned the venue. The staff had begun cleaning the spilled wine with precise coordination, a silent acknowledgement of whose approval mattered. Marcus waited quietly nearby, clearly savoring the reveal. Shall we? I asked lightly. We can continue over dinner. I'd love to walk you through the Rivera acquisition. James, you might enjoy hearing why your financing terms didn't make the cut. As we moved toward my private table, the energy shifted. Lillian, once the orchestrator of the evening, now trailed behind like a misplaced guest. James had put his phone away, his expression unreadable, caught somewhere between professional curiosity and personal reckoning. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or seated at the wrong table, subscribe for the next chapter, because Natalie's story is just beginning. The 1982 Bordeaux, Philippe, I said as we settled into my private table, and informed the chef I'll be having tonight's special presentation. Philippe hesitated just a beat, glancing nervously at my family. The one we've been aging for 3 months, madame? The fusion menu? Exactly, I said with a knowing smile. It's time my family experienced what their so-called personal shopper has been working on. Mother adjusted her pearls, an old reflex from her country club days. Working on? She asked, voice tinged with unease. You mean, you're involved in the menu planning? Marcus, seated comfortably at my right despite Lillian's barely concealed irritation, chuckled. Mrs. Carter, he said politely, your daughter personally approves every major menu change across all Carter Lux properties. The molecular gastronomy program at the Cliffstone Dubai? Her idea. But you can't even cook, Lillian snapped. Last Christmas, you brought store-bought cookies. Because I was in the middle of acquiring those stores, I replied evenly. The entire gourmet market chain, actually. Though the cookies were excellent, our food science team spent 6 months refining the recipe. The wine arrived then, and Philippe carried out the tasting ritual with exaggerated grace. My siblings watched, wide-eyed, clearly calculating the bottle's value, likely remembering every time they'd teased me about coupons or budget wine. Now then, I said, turning to James, about your financing proposal. Your bank's terms were ambitious. Almost as ambitious as that job offer you extended last month. James sputtered into his glass. That entry-level position, I continued, would have placed me 3 rungs beneath employees who now report to my subsidiaries. I smiled slightly. I did appreciate the irony, though. Father cleared his throat. But how? When did all of this happen? Carter Lux is one of the most discreet firms in the industry. The CEO's never been identified. By design, I said calmly. I started small, buying struggling boutique hotels and reviving them. While Lillian was planning charity galas at my properties and James was bragging about his industry contacts, I was building something real. The first course arrived, a sculptural marvel of flavor and innovation. Mother stared at her plate like it held the answer to everything she'd misunderstood. As for that Singapore hotel James mentioned, I said casually, I bought it after Lillian raved about her exclusive stay. She never realized her upgrades came from her sister, not her social clout. Lillian's face flushed a deep crimson. And those trips you always questioned, I added. Market research. Though your feedback on the spa was noted, we're renovating it next month. Marcus's tablet chimed again. Asian markets are opening, boss, he murmured, eyes flicking across the screen. Rivera's stock is already spiking on the acquisition rumors. James's hand twitched toward his phone, then hesitated. Self-retrieve finally winning over curiosity. You beat every major chain for Rivera, he muttered, astonished. The financial press has been buzzing for weeks about the mystery buyer. They'll know soon enough, I said. The press release drops at midnight PST, just under 3 hours. I checked my watch, then glanced at Mother. By the way, you may want to cancel your lunch at the plaza tomorrow. We're closing it for renovations now that we own it. Mother's fork clattered. The plaza? I've lunched there for 20 years. I know the owner personally. You knew the previous owner, I corrected gently. I became the current one about 10 minutes ago when I signed those papers. The second course arrived. Featherlight scallop roulades balanced atop glass spheres of lemongrass vapor. The staff moved with practiced grace, each gesture carrying the faint deference of people who knew precisely who signed the paychecks. I slipped my phone into my clutch. A car is waiting. The global announcement streams from our Tokyo HQ, and I'd like to greet the Asia-Pac board in person. I turned to James. For the record, your bank's analysis was strong, just not flexible enough. My gaze shifted to Lillian. And if you schedule another gala, have your people call mine. The family discount is generous. Outside, headlights glinted through the floor-to-ceiling windows. A glossy black Tesla Model S hummed to a stop at the private entrance. Distinctly not the aging Honda Civic my family assumed I still drove. David, my chauffeur of 7 years, stepped out, immaculate as always. "One more thing," I said, rising. My custom Delvinia dress caught the light, a river of midnight silk. "Lillian, about those charity galas you love organizing." She straightened, wary. "Yes? The Children's Hospital Foundation you've been courting?" I allowed the words to land. "I'm the anonymous donor funding its oncology wing. 5 years and counting. Next time, lead with compassion, not connections." Mother's social composure cracked. "The oncology wing, that's millions." 200 million, Marcus supplied gently, though Miss Carter prefers her philanthropy stay quiet. James was now scrolling frantically, live alerts from every major business outlet flashing across his screen. Carter Lux Group acquires Rivera Hotels in landmark $3,200,000,000 0 deal. He stared at the headline, then at me, realization finally eclipsing disbelief. I paused at the doorway, keys to an empire rattling softly in my palm. Sometimes the seat they give you isn't worthy of your story, I said. So you build your own table. David opened the car door. I offered my family a final composed smile. Stay tuned, the next chapter goes live in Tokyo. This is going to be bigger than anyone predicted, Marcus said under his breath, scanning the latest update. I turned to my father, who had remained unusually quiet throughout the evening. That business advice you gave me 5 years ago, about starting small, learning the basics, I took it to heart. I began with a single failing boutique hotel. Then I acquired its competitors. Then the restaurants that served them. Then the supply chains, the booking platforms, the real estate beneath them. I let the silence stretch, let the weight of it settle. Philippe returned, this time with a sleek leather portfolio, the kind reserved for owners. The full seasonal wine program and renovation plans, Madam Carter, he said, emphasizing my name in the business world. The new rooftop garden concept is spectacular. Lillian stiffened. But I just booked my engagement party here. The rooftop space will be under renovation, I replied evenly. But our Paris location has a gorgeous terrace. I'll have my team transfer the booking. Complimentary upgrade, of course. Family discount. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. For years, Lillian had dangled her connections and favors like she was granting me access. All the while, I had quietly owned the doors she thought she was opening. My phone buzzed again. Tokyo was waiting. I have to go, I said, standing. The Asian markets don't pause for family drama. I reached into my purse and placed a black Centurion card on the table. Dinner's on me, as always. You just never knew. Mother blinked hard. All those business dinners you skipped? Because you were working late at your little shopping job? I gave a soft smile. I was usually right here, at that private table in the corner. I nodded toward the velvet rope space, signing deals worth more than this building. David appeared at the door, holding it open with professional grace. Paparazzi lights flashed beyond the glass. News of the Rivera acquisition was already spiraling into the media sphere. Last thing, I said, turning back. James, about that entry-level job offer, I'm hiring several executives post-merger. Your analysis was solid. Tell your people to call my people if you're comfortable reporting to your little sister. His expression was priceless. Shock, awe, and a dash of panic. Lillian still stared at the black card like it was made of myth. And Lillian, I added, those store-bought cookies from Christmas? They'll be hitting high-end groceries next month. I bought the recipe for 8 figures. Turns out, simplicity scales. With that, I walked out of the Cliffstone Grand, leaving my family to digest more than dinner. Tomorrow, the world would talk about Carter Luck's rise. But tonight, I reclaimed something more valuable. My family's respect. David opened the car door. Tokyo, Ms. Carter. Tokyo, I confirmed, settling into the leather seat. And David, make sure my family gets home safely. That's what real success looks like. Taking care of your own, even when your own didn't take care of you. If you've ever been dismissed, downplayed, or doubted, drop a comment below. I want to hear from you. Tell me what part of my story reminded you of your own. We don't always get the apology, the recognition, or the seat we deserve, but that doesn't mean we stop building. I didn't raise my voice, I raised my vision. So if my journey spoke to something inside you, let me know, and subscribe, because quiet strength deserves a loud witness. And remember, sometimes the best way to respond to doubt is to become undeniable.